Very good morning, it's Penuel the Black Pen. Sanibonani nonke emakhaya, igama lami uPenuel ipeni elimnyama, usiba olunsundu. Goeiemôre, dis Penuel die swart pen. I had the privilege and the opportunity of visiting Accra, Ghana, in West Africa the last week, thanks to CRDF, which is the Civilian Research and Development Foundation, which looks to work with safety and security using science and innovation. So they help to fund the travel to Ghana to go and attend a conference which was speaking about SMR technology, small modular reactors, which have to do with creating electricity using nuclear energy, but using smaller nuclear reactors rather than the ordinary reactors which are used in big nuclear power plants. It was hosted by FIRST, the foundational infrastructure for responsible use of SMR technology, because there's things like non-proliferation which have to do with the waste of generating nuclear power, because some of that waste can be used to create nuclear weapons. So it's very important that, number one, when you're generating nuclear power, there are heavy security and safety measures in using the nuclear power because of the waste that comes from there and how potentially hazardous it can be. And then secondly, getting rid of the nuclear waste in a good and safe way for the environment, and also so that people don't use it for weapons. It was a decent 2-day conference. Got to learn a lot about small modular reactors. Got to meet people from Japan, Korea, of course, Ghana. There were people from Kenya. There were people from Canada. And it was hosted by the United States of America. A lot of American know-how on this type of technology. The United Kingdom as well, with Rolls-Royce as a company being one of the companies that is using SMR technology. And look, at South Africa, thanks to the apartheid government, we have made a lot of progress in the nuclear development space. When you look at spaces like Pelindaba and Nexa, and the bombs that were created, but then luckily they were dismantled and decommissioned before the apartheid government handed over to the ANC government, which we can only assume why they did that. And we've got a nuclear power plant in the Western Cape, Kuberg, which powers half of the Western Cape as far as I know. So the conversations have been around energy, electricity, especially with South Africa's load shedding turning 16, sweet 16 this year. And in the last 2-3 years, we've had the worst load shedding ever under the now axed ex-CEO of Eskom, Andre de Ruyter, who dropped a lot of files around corruption and all kinds of scandals at Eskom, something that Gayton McKenzie, the leader of the Patriotic Alliance, had done towards the end of last year, I think December 2022. I've made a video about that, I think in a 3 or 4-part series where, or rather in 3 or 4-part series that Gayton McKenzie in Facebook posts spoke about the different elements that lead to the destruction at Eskom. I have said before that the issues at Eskom are so layered, and the load shedding in particular started all the way back in, geez, I don't want to lie to you. Was it 1999? May have been 1999, I'm not sure. But Thabo Mbeki was the president of South Africa at the time, and he tried to privatize Eskom by selling it, and he failed. And because he was doing that, at the same time, he wasn't putting in an effort and investment in maintaining Eskom infrastructure. And today, we've got the destruction that we have. There are a lot of fights and arguments between coal, which provides 80% of our power. It doesn't provide, but it is responsible for 80% of our power, because the power plants that we use, they use coal to burn, to boil water, to generate the steam that is needed to turn the turbines that generate our electricity. But coal is not the only way we can generate power. We have a lot of coal, a lot of good coal. We even export some of our best coal to places like America, Germany, and other parts of the world. Because coal is seen as a dirty source, it's a fossil fuel, the world, the people that care about the climate and the ozone layer, they have said we need to move away from coal and carbon emissions. And for that, they've tried to incentivize countries like South Africa to put in more work in moving away from coal and looking into other alternatives. Now, the big buzzword right now is renewable energy. There are various types of renewable energy. Solar is one of the big ones we're looking into with solar panels and solar farms. Wind is one of the ones that they are looking into. Um, Hydro, if I'm not mistaken, which is batteries using hydrogen cells. And there's a couple of others. I think I think that's a fossil fuel, sorry. Biodiesel, biomass, where they take old secretion from animals, or not excretion from animals, basically cow poop and other animals' poop. They take, they recycle oil and those kind of things. I think those are also fossil fuels. Oil is a fossil fuel. Gas is a fossil fuel. Renewables is the one. And then they speak about clean energy, of which nuclear is arguably the best, if not the second best, after hydrogen cells. And I don't know much about energy and electricity. I'm learning, especially because we've got load shedding. I've got a vested interest to be like, how do we find the solutions for myself, my family, my community where I come from in Johannesburg, my community back home in Newcastle, and for every other South African that actually cares. I've looked into Orania, which is a small town of 2,800 people. It's an Afrikaans-only town in South Africa. Very controversial because people see it as a whites-only town. They've gone 50% off grid. Their whole day is powered by solar energy, and they are looking to go 100% off grid. I believe AfriForum, which is a non-profit organization which fights for minorities in South Africa, in particular Afrikaners, and who hold the government to account, they are looking into something like SMR, small modular reactor technology, to see if they can get people off grid. A reactor is basically a cooking pot where you put in nuclear uranium, you put in nuclear, you burn it, and then that steam turns the turbines which generate electricity. There's a lot of politics involved. Russia is very advanced in their nuclear energy. When I visited St. Petersburg for the Russia-Africa Economic and Humanitarian Forum, I was hosted by Rosatom, which is a state-owned nuclear technology company in Russia. They do energy, they do weapons, they do medicine, so many other things around nuclear. And they helped me demystify my thoughts around nuclear, especially when you look at Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer movie about the nuclear bomb that was created in America and that was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. Russia, because of BRICS, because of Vladimir Putin and the conflict with Ukraine, seen as this big bad wolf, and the Americans and the West don't want us to work with or like Russia. But I got to learn a lot about nuclear technology there. America, funny enough, one of the things I learned is investing a lot in nuclear energy, even though America, Germany, and the West have given South Africa, with Cyril Ramaphosa as the president, $8.5 billion to incentivize us to move away from coal energy and to not go into nuclear, which is arguably in the long run cheaper, much cleaner for the environment, and focusing on renewables, which is solar and wind. But they're investing in nuclear. People's favorite villain now, especially because of vaccines and COVID, Bill Gates, has invested in a company called TerraPower, and they've received between 400 million to 4 billion US dollars as a grant from the US government to invest in nuclear energy, something that we are being told to move away from. I mean, Koeberg in the Western Cape, they are looking to decommission that plant. If you look at the coal power plants, they are looking to decommission those coal power plants, and some of them still have like a decent lifespan. And when they get decommissioned, by the way, a lot of people are going to lose jobs. And and look, of course, it's politics, and I'm listening to people, trying to listen to people on both sides. Solar energy is not sufficient to power South Africa because the sun is not reliable and it doesn't shine the whole day. The wind doesn't blow everywhere in South Africa. Again, it's not blowing all the time. We can't rely on it. The now ex-chief operating officer of Eskom, Jan Oberholzer, has said renewables are not the solution. Yes, we need an energy mix. By energy mix, it means don't rely on just coal. Don't rely on just solar. Don't rely on just nuclear. Find a mix. But in South Africa, we still need to rely on coal. I mean, coal has created first world economies. And if you look at first world economies today, I mean, Japan is not even, the Japanese came to present at the conference I was at, but they're not even using the small modular reactor technology. Like I said, America is investing heavily in nuclear. I mean, TerraPower, yeah, Bill Gates is the one. They've got one that has received so much regulatory approval, which is called NuScale. I'm learning about these companies. There are so many more. In South Africa, we don't even speak about nuclear because when you say nuclear, people think bombs. And it is so far from the truth. And it's almost like there's an agenda to keep people from understanding nuclear energy and nuclear power and how nuclear can be used for medicine and so many other things. Germany is taking a lot of our coal, but they are telling us move away from coal. Now, the Middle East, for example, is very oil rich. They use a lot of oil. They're investing a lot in renewable energy as well. And some of those places are investing in nuclear as well. Egypt is building a nuclear power plant. Ghana, where we were visiting, is going to be investing in SMR technology. France, which is a first world nation, is largely powered by nuclear energy. It is the number one, if not the second most, after the United States of America. It's the number one country that uses nuclear energy to power itself up. Of course, they've got issues now because their French colonies are fighting against them, and the governments that are friendly with France are being overthrown through military coups. Chad, Gabon, Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea. All of those guys are saying, fuck France, and we are no longer going to give you our uranium, of which uranium is needed to create nuclear energy. And they are coming up with new deals. The politics is so heavy. Now, I cannot advocate for nuclear. I don't know anything about it, except for the little bit I've learned now, and the fact that their radioactive waste is dangerous. And it takes decades, if not centuries, for the waste to actually be environmentally friendly. So it needs to be stored in spaces far away from human beings for decades, if not centuries. So it is dangerous. How dangerous it is now becomes an argument for debate. The pro-nuclear guys are like, it's not that dangerous. The environmentalists who are very pro-renewable energy, solar, wind, are like, oh, it's so bad. And then there's this agenda that is normally funded. I'm here because I'm worried about the development of South Africa and Africa. I am a South African. I'm an African. I was born in an era where we learned about the colonization of Africa by the British, by the French, by the Italians, by the Germans, by the Portuguese, by the Belgians in the DRC, and a few other European nations. I'm now in an area where there is almost neocolonialism, where Russia seems to be providing military weapons to parts of Africa to overthrow the incumbent governments that are friendly with the West, where China is giving a lot of debt and helping to build infrastructure with a whole lot of African countries. Russia, China, it could be Japan, it could be South Korea, it could be any new friend. They're not here just for charity. They are here for economic reasons. They want to benefit from the mineral resources of Africa. They want to make money from Africa. It's not just for, oh, you guys look like you're suffering, let's help you. It's not. Anyone who believes that is a fool and is a naive idiot. So there's neocolonialism now. And we still have governments that seem to be puppets of certain agendas that are not putting Africans first. I mean, guys, we need to be honest. If we cared about developing Africa, there are a few aspects that are non-negotiable. How do you empower a people that were disempowered and oppressed before? Forget the African continent, forget colonialism, forget all these things. You see a neighborhood of poor people who have some land. Their land is actually fertile. They have labor, they are young, they have energy. How do you help them compete with another neighborhood where the people are extremely wealthy? They also have land, they farm, they mine, they develop technologies, etc. How do you do that? You do it first and foremost through real education and skills development. You go to that poor community and you say, we will educate you on how to farm your land, on how to mine your land, on how to develop technology and innovation, on how to, very importantly, defend yourselves because there are going to be other people that are going to come and take from you. You educate them with real education, the type of education to do for self, not to serve others. We don't educate you to go and work in the rich neighborhood. That doesn't make sense because we want you to develop yourselves. The education on the African continent, you can go anywhere, is not geared towards empowering African people. If you look in South Africa at our basic education syllabus, you can look at tertiary education. You look at our 40% graduate unemployment problem, our 60 to 70% youth unemployment problem. These are young people. They are not sick. They are healthy. They are able-bodied. They have gone through school. They have got matric at grade 12. A lot of them have got diplomas and degrees from tertiary education institutions. But they cannot do for themselves, which means their education is hollow. You are complaining about pen, I'm unemployed, I can't feed myself. You have had 12 plus 3 to 5 years of schooling, but you cannot grow your own food on a small piece of land. You cannot take tires and plant potatoes. You cannot take ice cream containers, old, thrown away ice cream containers, and plant tomatoes. You cannot breed chickens for eggs. You are not even looking and farming goats for milk or cows for milk. And you're struggling with food. You do not know how to go and plant trees or go to trees that are already out there, chop them down and manufacture furniture, very basic benches, basic bed structures. You do not know how to grow cotton, how to fleece sheep's wool, how to take the sheep's fleece and turn that into wool so that you can manufacture your own textiles and make your own clothing. You do not know how to fix a car. You do not know how to build a car. You do not know how to fix a cell phone. You do not know how to build a cell phone. And you've got a chunk of South Africans and Africans that have gone through 15 years of schooling and they cannot show you a basic skill, basic. And they sit unemployed waiting for big corporate companies to hire them. Most of these companies are not original African countries. They are Western companies. Please give us a job. We are begging for jobs. And your politicians keep saying we want job creation. No. Africans need real education and skills development. And once they have that, they obviously must have access to land. They must have access to resources. And they must have access to any form of funding to ignite these things. And after doing that, they must have access to markets. And your political leaders are not invested there, because they are given money by the West, the United States of America, Canada, parts of Western Europe, including the United Kingdom. Or they are now jumping on the BRICS wagon, where the big players there are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and a few other guys. Today, you've got Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia that are coming on board, Argentina as well. These people are out for themselves, and it looks like the African leaders are not focused on educating their people. They actually need their people ignorant, and in the South African case, dependent on social grants and social welfare so that they cannot do for themselves. You visit a place like China, which I had the privilege of visiting recently, visiting my 2 children who were in Ningbo. Got to visit Beijing, got to visit Hong Kong. In the past, I've been to Guangzhou, I've been to Shenzhen. You visit places like South Korea, Seoul, as an example. The people there are being upskilled to be productive. India today is investing a lot in real education and skills development. That's why they've been able to send a rocket to the moon. That's why so many of the Silicon Valley in Palo Alto in San Francisco in America, so many Silicon Valley CEOs, executives, engineers, coders, programmers are from India. A lot of them are from Russia. Russians are investing in education. These are leaders that are putting their people first. Robert Mugabe looked like he was doing that by having the most advanced education system on the African continent in Zimbabwe. But today, Zimbabweans don't look like they're building anything progressive in Zim. Instead, they are leaving Zimbabwe to come to South Africa, to go to London, to go to other parts of the world where they can use their skills not to build, but to be employees for other companies that have been set up. Now, to develop Africa, education is the one part. Real education. Military training and advanced weapons is another one. And that's why Russia becomes such an important friend for African countries that are being told don't have nuclear bombs by a United States of America that has nuclear bombs. Don't have nuclear bombs, but North Korea has nuclear bombs. Russia is saying, we have nuclear weapons and we can help you. Not only develop your own nuclear weapons, we can help you develop your own nuclear energy. We can help you understand how nuclear medicine works. And that's why Russia is willing to educate Africans, including South Africans, to learn about their technologies. We will upskill you in real time because clearly you guys are not being taught these things. Learn about the technology. Russia's doing that, and it's saying, let us help you. Let us help you have advanced weapons, and let us help you with military training. They gave us the Kalashnikov, the AK-47, which a lot of the anti-apartheid struggle, political parties, movements used. Umkhonto Wesizwe, APLA, etc. These are people that are saying, we want to help you stand up for yourselves. Military. Then you need a steady supply of energy. For America to become what it became, John D. Rockefeller, and is it Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, the men who built America, today obviously we speak about Bill Gates, Henry Ford. You've got now Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, the new generations. To build Standard Oil, to build the railway systems. By the way, infrastructure is another big one on the African continent holding us back. First world rail, ships, shipbuilding, plane building, buses, roads, etc. For all of that to happen, you need electricity and energy. That's where people like Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla become gods. You need energy. I mean, people don't even know that the Eiffel Tower in France, in Paris, is an energy infrastructure tool. You need energy. And one of the things that really hurt me and scared me at the conference that I went to was the leader of AFCON, not AFCON, the soccer guys, AFCON. It's nuclear energy on the African continent. I want to just find you the official acronym and what it stands for. The African Commission on Nuclear Energy, AFCON. And he gave some stats. Let me actually give you this data because I know I tweeted it. Please allow me. I apologize for this delay. 47% of Africans, all Africans, over 1.1 billion if I'm not mistaken, 47%, less than half, have access to electricity, have access to any form of electricity. You can look in South Africa where we are very advanced in access to electricity, thanks to the ANC government after 1994, which prioritized getting electricity into townships, into villages. They did really well. It's very sad that they've dropped the ball now. Less than half of Africans have access to electricity. Even scarier, less than 20% of Africans have reliable electricity. Reliable. That means 24-hour access to electricity. South Africa used to be one of them. South Africa used to be one of them. And because of the failures of Thabo Mbeki, who had Jacob Zuma as his deputy at the time, Jacob Zuma under Brian Molefe and Matsila Koko, they stopped load shedding for 2 years. It came at a high cost, etc., etc. But they stopped load shedding. And then Jacob Zuma was removed. Cyril Ramaphosa came in and we've had the worst load shedding ever. Under Andre de Ruyter, the CEO, who didn't place himself there. He was placed by ANC leaders, Pravin Gordhan, Ibrahim Patel, Togo Didiza, and Gwede Mantashe. Less than 20% have reliable electricity. So even if you're trying to develop your country, continent, your electricity is not reliable. Imagine in your home, you're trying to build a business. You're trying to create an online business. You're trying to manufacture things. You run a mechanical workshop. You offer students studying. You do all these things, tourism. But your electricity is not reliable, which means the people visiting cannot watch TV. The people that are creating technologies cannot. No reliable energy. Out of the 53, if I'm not mistaken, 53, 54 African states, only four of them have 24-hour access to electricity. 4. And they're in North Africa. Someone actually asked me which 4 they are. And I remember giving them a response. I want to give you the list. I just want to give you the accurate list because I know them. Which African countries have reliable energy? No, man. This thing was easier to find during the week. Okay, here they are, the four. Egypt, which is investing in nuclear energy as well. They're building a nuclear power plant. And Egypt has just joined BRICS. Their membership starts officially on the 1st of January 2024. Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia. These are North African countries. The Arab countries are the only African countries with a 100% constant power supply. Nigeria, Ghana, Eastern Africa, Kenya, Paul Kagame's Rwanda, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, arguably the wealthiest nation on the planet from a mineral resources perspective, but one of the poorest nations on the continent because of their leadership and corruption and meddling from Western nations. South Africa, which is one of the crown jewels of Africa, no reliable energy. How do you then build? So that's the reason I am learning about these things, because I care about South Africa and Africans, and I want us to have key conversations about how do we resolve these things. And it is not enough to listen to foreigners telling us use nuclear, use renewables, when they are actually not investing in the development of Africa. All they are trying to do is, number one, sell you their technology, making sure that they push you further in debt, more neocolonialism. And number two, they are not helping you use the resources at your disposal, which are number one. If you have a lot of coal, build your energy off coal. If you have a lot of uranium, like the West African countries that have been overthrown, use uranium and nuclear. If you have a lot of sun, you're close to a desert, close to the equator, of course use solar. If you're at a windy place, by all means use that. But don't tell us to use something that we don't have in abundance, while we don't even emit as much carbon as you guys do, but you guys are not even pushing renewable. It is almost like Cyril Ramaphosa, the ANC, and all these other guys are being pushed to say, we want to prolong your development as long as possible. We don't want you to develop. Because once you develop, you become empowered, and that means we lose our power as the USA, as Canada, as France, as Germany, as Britain, as whoever else wants to retain power over the African continent. And it is time for some of us to wake up and be like, let us educate ourselves around the technologies that are out there. Let us learn real education, and let us partner with the countries, with the companies, with the individuals that actually want us to win. And in the South African context, Black South Africans need to spend as much time as possible with Afrikaans South Africans who during apartheid developed Eskom for power, developed Sasol for our own refined fuel and petroleum products. ISCO, where we were developing our own metal and steel. ISCO, which eventually got sold to ArcelorMittal. Armsco, where we were manufacturing our own weapons, to a point where we had nuclear weapons. We had 6 to 7 nuclear bombs. South Africa was building itself into a self-sufficient state under the apartheid government. A horrible apartheid government that oppressed and exploited Black South Africans, that made certain races not allowed to engage in the mainstream economy, and that relegated Black people to the townships. But from an industrialization perspective, they were moving. If you look at our railway system with Transnet, we were on our way to becoming first world. We should have speed trains today like Japan, like South Korea, but we don't. Because the ANC government, in pushing for social welfare and all the promises they gave the masses, have made sure that the education our people have is so poor and is miseducating and undereducating people. They have destroyed the infrastructure of Transnet. They have given licenses for mining to foreign companies like Glencore. They've kept Anglo-American as the #1 mafia in this country, which ensures that ordinary South Africans are not developing. And Afrikaans people need to rise to the occasion and say, look, we apologize for apartheid. We made a lot of mistakes, but we still love this country. We love this continent. We want to help you guys develop it. You look at Naspers and what it's been able to achieve as a global company, investing in Tencent and WeChat in China. Today, they've left South Africa and they invested in Amsterdam, where the Dutch come from. You look at MultiChoice and DSTV and how powerful it is on the African continent. The Afrikaans built ShopRite with Christo Visa and YT Passon as the biggest retailer on the continent. You look at Pepco under Christo Visa with all the companies under them. Afrikaans people run mining operations in South Africa and on the African continent. A lot of these Afrikaans engineers have left to help other places develop energy. They've left to help other people develop their new technologies. These are skilled people, the engineers that Matsila Koko, Brian Molif has spoken about, Julius Malema has spoken about, Jan Oberholzer has spoken about, Andre de Ruyter has spoken about. People with skills that can help pass on those skills to Black, Indian, colored South Africans and work together to build South Africa. Take the apartheid government's industrialization program and carry on with it. Put aside the fact that it excluded race, include the races now, but make sure that it focuses on skills. How can we develop this country and the rest of the continent? Because the continent still looks to South Africa. Even when we sit at these conferences, you hear when people like Princess Mtombeni of Africa for Nuclear, which is an advocacy group for nuclear, when you listen to Senye Pile Smelane from NERSA coming to speak that we are still an authoritative voice on energy on the African continent. And these are Black people I'm speaking about who built on from what the apartheid government and white people have started. Let us come together and work. If you are passionate, Orania must say, guys, we are willing to sit with Blacks, Coloreds, Indians, and show you how we as Orania have gone off-grid. And let us help your estate complex neighborhood in your township of Alex, Tembisa, Mdantsane, Gugulethu, Nyanga, Kailicha, Kwamashu, Emadadeni, Osizweni, wherever it can be Ngodini, it can be Mamelodi, it can be Atteridgeville. Let us help you go off-grid because we have gotten it right. Let us sit with AfriForum and say, we know you guys fight for minorities, but do you actually love South Africa? Let us sit and try and find solutions for South Africa. That's what I care about for now. The masses of South Africans I've realized don't care. A lot of them are ignorant because of the education that they get, because they are constantly having their minds numbed and escapism through social media platforms that are about entertainment, gossip, witchcraft, mainstream reality TV shows which are about slay queens, witchcraft, amapiano, which is amazing music, but it is not about developing this country. Even a movement like amapiano, how much of the industry is focused on let us help artists build their own record labels, let us help musicians develop their own microphones, their own keyboards, their own recording equipment and manufacture it. Let us build our own distribution. Nothing. Just make the music and let other people make your money, the bulk of the money from it. So some of us actually care about the development of South Africa and Africa, and I need to find like-minded people. Zimasa Vabaza, Mustafa and I spoke about building 100 top South Africans, setting up some type of a summit and saying, what is our vision for the next 50 years, the next 100 years, for South Africa in particular, and then linking with other young African leaders. What is the future for Africa? The masses, let's forget about campaigning to the masses, which is something I kept thinking about. Let me make videos in isiZulu. Let me make more videos in Afrikaans so that ek kan die meeste van Afrikaner mense, hulle kan my hoor as ek praat. Wat sê Penuel die swart pen? Wat moet ons doen? Wat is ons probleme? Wat kan ons doen om ons lewens beter te maak? But I realized, you know what? The masses of these people just need better systems. So how do I find the people that are going to build systems of education that are focused on real education, that are focused on skills development, so that our people have real skills? Engineering, agriculture, technology, and innovation. And even if we're speaking entertainment, let us get into the value chain of entertainment. Let us make sure we can build stages, we can manufacture microphones, we can manufacture recording equipment, we can manufacture television screens, laptops, etc., etc. We can build our own internet infrastructure. Let us focus on real skills and real education. Let us then build the systems of saying, how do we take the equipment that can be built and then mine and farm and manufacture infrastructure and build trucks and build trains and ships. I mean, you look at companies like Samsung, Kia, Hyundai. You look at the Japanese companies, Mitsubishi, Nissan, Suzuki, Isuzu. You look at Tata. What is the other one from India? There's Tata and there's another one. Today in South Africa, we're welcoming Bike or Bake, B-A-I-C. We're welcoming all these technologies that are coming, all these people that are manufacturing when we can manufacture for ourselves. I'm yet to visit. There's a shipbuilding plant in Durban. Who runs it? How does it work? There's the train manufacturing capabilities in Ekurhuleni, the place of peace. It's a Tsonga word, Ekurhuleni, Ekuthuleni, in the East Rand of Gauteng. How do we educate ordinary kids and plug them into the system to manufacture trains, manufacture ships? How can we manufacture aeroplanes? How do we manufacture our own car brands? We've got Toyota Quantums. When are we building our own minibus taxis as South Africans? When are we building our own real infrastructure? And if it means we need to bring in Germans and people from Norway, Denmark, Sweden, people from Switzerland, Japan, South Korea, India, bring them in and let us build. Bring Elon Musk. Let him come build Tesla plants here. Bring Patrick Soon-Shiong and let him help us develop medicines here. Those are the conversations we need to be having, and develop military weapons as Russia can teach us with Rosatom, Rostec, as the apartheid government had done with Armscor. We have Denel, ISCO, ESCOM. Telkom should be the leading telecoms provider on the African continent. MTN has done well, but it gives us the most expensive data in South Africa, along with the cartel of Vodacom, Telkom as well, Cell C at some point. We are not serious about development. We are not. Just wanted to share that with you guys today. I hope you'll have a great and blessed day. I'll catch up with you guys again soon. And those of us who understand, it's not going to be for the masses. For the masses, we can keep having the conversations around gossip, around relationships, around what's cool and what's happening. We need to have those conversations so that we don't lose our people. And then after having some of those gossip, let's laugh, let's chat conversations, what's trending on social media, on Twitter, which series is dope on Netflix, on Showmax, cool. Let's speak about developing ourselves. What is your skill set? Which company are you building or are you helping build that is patriotically South African or African? And how are we making sure that we are driving Africa into becoming a superpower in the next 50 to 100 years? And we are not letting the West or the East or anyone else delay our development because it suits their agendas. And if it means we need to go and be based in their countries so that we can come and neocolonize our own continent as if we are from outside when we are actually from inside, let's do that. Let's mastermind the strategy. Let's go and impregnate. I've said this, very controversial. Go and impregnate German girls, Japanese, go and have children, Japanese men. Go and have kids with Koreans. Go and have kids with Americans, with Canadians, with French people. Have these mixed race children who have a priority for the development of Europe, America, Japan, Korea, China, and Africa, because their roots are everywhere. And they will fight the fights for us. We need to fight smart and we need to develop Africa. Our time is now. While I'm alive, I want to see if I can do my best to ignite and enlighten as many people on the African continent, and to also show the rest of the world that you guys must stop oppressing and exploiting us. We can actually work together to solve some of the problems, even in some of your countries. Because if Africa can become more developed, some of the overpopulated countries can bring some of their people here. We have got so much land on the African continent. We can take so many more people. There is no overpopulation here. Overpopulation is in the developed countries, in Europe, in the United States of America, in China. Those places are overpopulated. Africa has got too much land. We can build cities of the future where the Chinese can come live, where the Americans and the Canadians and the French can come and live, and we can build a cosmopolitan African continent. But we need the right type of futuristic, future-looking leadership to drive us there, and to keep away evil people that are only focused on making profit and exploiting and oppressing the masses. We need to fight those people and make sure that their agendas are not winning anymore. Pen you while the black pen, pen you while the swart pen. Let us connect, let us build, let us develop for the future. Cheers.